Welcome to the 404th episode of CppCast, the first podcast for C++ developers by C++ developers. I'm your host, Jason Turner. There was some chance that this episode would never be found, but I have decided to restart CppCast. I am the sole host at the moment. I might be open to talking to a co-host if anyone's interested in that. The format will stay the same for those of you who are a fan of CppCast, although I'm sure the editing and such will come across a little different than it has in the past because this will be the first time I'm editing. I am planning for a once-a-month cadence, so this will be every fourth week will be a CppCast episode that's going to overlap with C++ Weekly. So every fourth week, expect that on C++ Weekly's YouTube channel, you'll see a CppCast episode, but you can also listen to CppCast on your favorite podcasting platform, assuming I do all that correctly. This week, or this month, I am joined by Jamie Pendergast.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Correct. Yeah, everyone gets it wrong, but you got it right that time.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Jamie is a 23-year-old hobbyist C++ developer who enjoys building fun, niche, and creative projects. He has recently taken an interest in compiler theory and development for the sake of fun and learning something new and challenging. Despite having a diverse set of skills in plenty of areas, such as backend development, video game development, and web development, he has been unable to land a job in any technical field. We'll talk more about the job situation throughout the podcast, I expect here. So welcome, Jamie.
Thank you.
I'm glad I pronounced your name correctly on the first try.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, how do people get it wrong?
They say like Pendergast, Prendergast is one of them.
Prendergast.
Like common aliases, like similar sort of sounding names that people associate with it. So someone says Prendergast, it's Pendergast. And they always say, oh, well, what's a funny name? Where's that from? So I have to go along with that whole, it's an Irish name. So, yeah, it's one of those foreign names that people don't understand. So yeah.
I don't know. It seemed pretty straightforward to me. So anyhow, all right, we've got some news items to discuss. This is, since I'm going to be doing a once a month cadence, again, for the sake of the listeners here, I'll let you know that the news isn't going to be quite up to the minute as it was when it was Rob and I who were hosting CppCast, but this is kind of news that you may have missed this month, perhaps. So the first article that we have here is an article from Mathieu Roper, who Mathieu is a longtime friend of the podcast. He's on a couple of times way back in the day, I think. So, Mathieu has this article, Designated Initializers, the Best Feature of C++ 20. And you said you did have the chance to read this article, Jamie?
I did read it, yeah.
Do you have any opinions here? Is this the best feature of C++ 20?
I can't say it's the best feature. I think the best feature set really is constexpr. I think the constexpr support in C++ 20 has pushed it much forward than it was in C++ 17. But I do think it's really important with designated initializers, especially just for people who don't have IDEs, just get to see what the parameters are, without guessing really. We shouldn't have to guess what the parameters are. One of the nice patterns I like to do, especially for RackNet in particular, is the send method on the rack peer interface has got about a billion parameters, and without a IDE, or preferably, in my case, a struct, like saying rack send info with all the parameters there as fields, you can like pretty much boil down what it is without any unintended errors.
Right.
Designated initializers, yeah, it makes it a lot easier to understand.
Yeah, and that's what Mathieu here is talking about, using structs as function parameters so that you can use designated initializers to basically get named parameters.
Yeah.
And I think I do, like, I agree personally, designated initializers are great, but I've always been frustrated by the fact that you can't require the use of designated initializers. However, I just learned that Clang Tidy recently added a new check where it will require the use of designated initializers when directly initializing a struct. And so that might be going on my list of best practices right there.
I've only recently started using Clang Tidy in Clang format, and they're an absolute godsend. You can do, it's just so much things you never, like, it catches you off some sorts of things. Like,
Yeah.
if I forget to use no discard, or, I can make this static instead, or, I can make it const static, it lets me know, and it really helps me out in certain situations.
Nice.
Especially passing the pull requests with very pedantic reviewers.
Yeah. This just came up recently, I think, with my user group. For listeners, I host a C++ users group in the Denver area. If you happen to live here, come to my users group. Anyhow, sometimes Clang Tidy can be really, really slow, and some of my members pointed out to me that it's the identifier checks in Clang Tidy that can be really slow. So that's interesting. Anyhow, there are ways, just so you know, if Clang Tidy is slowing down your workflow, there are ways to profile Clang Tidy and figure out. Anyhow, whatever. Random rants about things. Okay, so reflection has been merged into GCC. So I think this counts as the first compiler to officially support reflection from C++ 26 is GCC now.
Who can be surprised? GCC is always the first to implement the newest feature, aren't they?
I do think it's more, yeah. I'm agreeing, yeah. Have you played with reflection at all?
No, it's difficult for me since I'm on Windows and I have to rely on MinGW, and that's always out of date. So, I'd say 23 for me.
Okay, so
26 is just yet.
Yeah, you could use the free versions of Visual Studio Community, but it definitely does not have reflection yet, so that's not going to help you.
Yeah, they're always a bit behind Microsoft here.
Yeah. Well, that's good news anyhow. First one where you don't have to have a special fork of the compiler or something. And then the last thing that we have here is this Reddit thread. That is the, I guess, bi-weekly update or something like that on upcoming C++ conferences. I noticed after I sent this to you that there is a now more up-to-date one that was just released like yesterday, but the news is still basically the same. And I just want our listeners to be aware, C++ now, 2026 has its call for speakers open. ADC X India has their 2026 call for speakers open. Haven't been to India before. And the CppCon Academy is asking for instructors to submit proposals, and that is still open. But I don't know if that'll still be open by the time this episode goes live. So maybe we shouldn't have mentioned that. I don't know. But if you're not a speaker or not interested in speaking, it's also just an overview of the conferences that are coming up. And so it does mention here ACCU on C, which has been merged with C++. C++ on C and ACCU have been merged together. They are June 15th through the 20th. Tickets available. And I was just talking to you off air about the fact that these conferences always want volunteers, and it's free to get into a conference if you volunteer, and anyone can be a volunteer. I highly recommend volunteering at conferences.
And as I found out, it's not just you'd have to be a speaker to be a volunteer.
No.
It's not have to be a speaker to be a volunteer.
No, if you're a speaker, you're far too concerned about when your talk is coming up to have the presence of mind to be a volunteer. And let's see, we've got also Toronto, NDC Toronto is coming up soon. That's May 5th through the 8th, yes. I also just want to take a moment for you and for anyone else listening. Something that I've learned, because I've now, across CppCast episodes, I've interviewed nearly 300 people. And what I've learned is that everyone has a unique experience. And this is also just a note for if you're listening to this and you're interested in coming on CppCast, give me a shout out. Whether or not you think you have something interesting to share, you probably do, because everyone's work experience has been different. Everyone's experience with C++ and programming has been different. You always have something to share that is unique to your experience. End rant, I guess, or something like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually get started on the interview portion of this. You put it right out there in your bio that you've had very little luck finding a job lately. So I'm just kind of curious, what has your job search experience been like? What is the market like right now for C++?
Well, but unfortunately, it's not that optimal for young developers who don't have much experience professionally. I found that it's been a bit of a chicken and the egg situation. Applying for these entry-level jobs, you need about 5 years of experience to even consider applying, really, because the demands are so high. You need to have experience in things that have just been released a lot, like the Carbon fiasco. You need like about 5 years of experience. When the languages just came out,
Right.
it's really difficult.
Well, yeah, to say 4 years of experience for an entry-level job, that doesn't make a lot of, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think employers are really eager to train new people or to consider, take on the risk of a new person. They'd rather just take what the old companies used to have. People who used to work at old companies, right, will take them instead of employing new people. Less risk. They're already have provably shown that they know what they're on about. But with a new person, you don't have that proof.
Right.
Mm.
Have you had has anyone said anything to you like, oh, like, I mean, sometimes I hear rumors that like, oh, we don't need entry-level developers anymore because we have AI, basically.
It's really disheartening.
What's that?
It's really disheartening to hear that.
Well, so have you ever heard that directly at all, is what I'm curious.
No, I haven't heard it. No.
Okay, well, that's good, because maybe they're just made up things that I've heard. Yeah. All right. So you have found job openings, but you just haven't been able to get past that initial screening, basically, right?
I've applied for about 100 programming jobs, and I've only had 2 emails back, and no rejections, sadly.
Wow.
Well, strangely, what I have had is like scam WhatsApp messages and spam emails, because a lot of these job listings, they're not even real. They're just there to get your data. Really, you have to be on the lookout for that.
Oh, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you shared a story on LinkedIn about you were denied for a job, and then they said, "Oh, maybe we want you for a different role," but that got lost in your inbox or something.
Yeah. I applied for a retail job. They said I did really well. They said, right, you're really happy with the score that you got. Unfortunately, we had to select somebody else because they did slightly better than you. But we will contact you again if there is another position that we think you might be suitable for. And a week later, after hundreds of spam emails, I got an email saying, "Oh, we'd like to interview you for a role at the post office of all things in this retail store. Please reply back with this reference number." And I'm like, I've used this email address to apply for so many jobs, and I'm getting all these spam emails from all these like fake job sites, and
Right.
I even got a Nigerian print scam of all things in my emails. I thought they'd all died out, but apparently not.
I haven't heard of the Nigerian job scam before. That's a new one.
Yeah. And I got one of these Chinese like task scams. You get a WhatsApp message, or one of your family gets a WhatsApp messages saying, "Oh, you can earn 50 USDT or C, like cryptocurrency, for like liking or reviewing certain things on Google Maps, or anything really, just to boost the rating, so you can get paid cryptocurrency for doing like these simple tasks." Now, first of all, I don't understand how that's worth $50 an hour or $50 a task. But secondly, as you go into it a bit more, I've looked online. There's a guy called Jim Browning, one of my favourite YouTubers, Jim Browning.
Okay.
He gets into all these scams, and he covered it, and he basically said, right, do it. He recommends to do it. Actually, he recommends to do the task because you do get paid, but don't quit immediately, because you end up having to pay to do the tasks, and it's not guaranteed that you can complete them in time. So it says do them, but immediately quit because they will try to rob you. But yeah,
Okay.
it was interesting, of all things.
Well, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah. Trouble.
Okay, so since our listeners who might be interested in hiring you would be curious, I'm just curious if you have any formal training, diploma, anything that you would like to mention.
Well, unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to complete college, so I wasn't able to get into university. But I did complete training by a certain training provider called North Coders, which is, I'd say, rather well known in the UK. I went on their data engineering course, and they taught me quite a lot. Initially I thought, I'll only do this so I can prove that I can do the job, so employees will consider me. But no, I learned quite a lot. I'm quite impressed
Right.
with how much they taught me. JavaScript, SQL. There was a good portion of like collaborative coding. We were put into teams. We learned version control, AWS, Terraform, and stuff that I'd never been able to do before, or even considered doing. I've always wanted to get into systems level programming, so that's C++, C, video games, anything really like that. My sort of interests.
Mhm.
But being on that course showed me that there's more to coding than just what you're interested in initially. Web development has been quite a good bit of fun, really. It's quite fun. JavaScript is very relaxed. It's very like zen.
Right.
That's how I describe it.
As long as it appears to work, it's good. Just keep typing.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Well, of course, it didn't quite work out there, so they used to have TypeScript as a patch over JavaScript.
Yeah.
But I did loads of things there, like making HTTP servers, RESTful servers, model view controller things I've never needed to do before in things like game development, because you don't really have that sort of interaction between data and game. It's very immediate in game development. You just access the engine directly or go through a certain subsystem. You don't like use a wrapper that wraps over a wrapper, providing you certain ways of accessing the data. But yeah, it was excellent. But unfortunately, the job board that I was guaranteed access to, all the jobs were in Birmingham, in London, in Manchester, ages away from where I live in Harrogate,
Okay.
and that's not a big tech area. It's more of a traditional, where wealthy people retire sort of area. Yeah. Yeah, so that didn't go very well. But you know what? I think it's worth it in the end because I learned all these new skills, working with people, learning new things. Yeah, and I'm very happy to have done that.
It reminds me of when I was in university, I had the opportunity to take a database course, and I said, I'm never going to use a database. I want to be like a C++ programmer.
Yeah.
Never going to use database. In the course of my career, I've used something like 12 different SQL variants.
Wow. It's a lot of
All
SQL.
you name a database engine, I've had a reason to professionally use it, and I never had any interest in that whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, those skills will never go to waste. So that's good.
Yeah.
So you're looking for mostly a remote job, then? It sound like perhaps, or
Hopefully, yeah. In the beginning, because of course I do hope to learn to drive. But I can't afford a car or a driving license right now.
right?
So my hope is I'll get a job. I'll learn how to drive. I'll buy a second-hand car for about 100 quid. Hopefully, maybe there's 200 quid, 300 quid, cheapest car I can find.
Yeah.
A shoebox of wheels if it counts. Maybe I'll be able to drive that. Just so I can get a bit more access to the job market than just being remote and just in the immediate area.
All right. Well, let's tell the listeners about the kind of projects you've been working on. Then I'm curious. How did you first get interested in C++?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I'll begin with Unity.
Okay.
I'm sure we've all played with Unity when we're maybe even now, or especially when I was younger.
Mhm.
And I wanted to make a Minecraft sort of game in C++. I saw Hobson's video. I remember Hobson's video specifically. The Minecraft in 1 week video. I was really impressed by that.
I don't know that one.
In fact, no, I might have got my time frame wrong there. I remember being 16 in high school, and I was watching Biscuit's videos. Did you know Biscuit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being absolutely dazzled by his NES emulator videos, his Doom engine videos, just when I was younger, I thought it was typing all by hand, like rapid typing all the way. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
No, I remember being really impressed by that. I was like, okay, this language looks amazing. I'll try it out, and I did. I couldn't get into it. It was too advanced for my 16-year-old brain. But yeah, I wanted to make a game, and I saw Matthew Hobson's video, and that really got me interested. I was like, okay, it doesn't seem that bad now. No, that's not just rapid coding, you know. All these advanced features, I've got no ideas, templates, concepts, but all the rest of them, I had no idea about all that. I watched the videos, and I asked my mother if I could have a C++ book birthday, and I ended up getting Links Elaine's Jump into C++, and that. But you know the one like the water, sort of like
I don't know that one. I'm now going to look it up. Jump into C++.
That's the one. Jumping into C++.
Jumping into C++. No, I don't know that book.
How
was it?
Actually, he recommended on his Discord server. I remember him saying that.
Oh, okay.
Go on to the basics. It taught code blocks as an IDE.
Okay.
It's okay. And it covered like really basic things about C++, functions, pointers. Pointers, I could not understand pointers. I'm sure many people understand that. First beginning C or C++, pointers, how does it work? What are they exactly?
Right.
But I ended up understanding it eventually. The book covered basic header files, source files, and there was a bit of like a linked list project in there as well. I found that really quite fun. And once I covered that, I ended up asking my mum for Bjorn's book.
Yeah.
Bjorn's book, the C++ programming language book, and I wish we'd make another one of them because it was absolutely amazing.
That's a couple years out of date now. Yeah.
Been a long time. Yeah.
Did you actually go through the whole book? I'm curious.
I don't remember running through all of it because there's so much of it. It's just packed so much of it, honestly. And yeah, I covered a lot of it. I'm not sure if I could remember all of it off the top of my head, but yeah.
It's like 1,200 pages or whatever. Yeah, no, I'm sure you don't. Yeah. You can't remember all of it. No.
No. Yeah, I enjoyed that, and I remember immediately getting into OpenGL. I wanted to make my own sort of Minecraft game. And I did, and it didn't work, but I had fun making it. Yeah, it was all good fun. I knew a bit of OpenGL from when I was at school. So like when I was in school, I was a bit of a naughty boy, and they sent me into like this isolation room, and they gave me an isolation room, basically a prison cell. It was okay. Because at least I had a laptop. A laptop, there was Java, and that meant I could download LWJGL and make it all look around camera, seeing basic 3D. I enjoyed that. Sorting me out for a few days or so when I was in the naughty boys room.
So you basically taught yourself OpenGL programming in Java while in detention.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As you do, just
as one does. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really want to talk about the C++ projects you're working on, but maybe jumping ahead a little bit, since you've already mentioned Minecraft a couple times, it sounds like you're starting on a new Minecraft project, like right now. Did I catch that right?
Yeah. That's one of these projects, these big ideas of mine for a game. I'm probably never going to be able to finish it, but the idea is what drives it, not if I can fix it or not, get it done or not. And it's imagine Minecraft, but like Ace of Spades, but a bit different, I'd say. So there was this one Minecraft mini game I remember playing when I was really young, 10 years ago, called Turf Wars, and this game was really cool. Like the half of the map was red and the other half was blue. You were on red or blue, and if you kill someone in the game, the red turf expands if you're red. You might lose some, if you're killed. And I found that kind of really interesting. That game kind of really interesting. It made it really quite dynamic. And I want to make something quite similar to that in my own sort of game. Because obviously Minecraft isn't built for like first-person shooters. It's just swords and bows, isn't it? So I wanted something like that. and I couldn't do it, tried again, but I'm very determined. I really wanted to get it done. Even if I fail 5 times making the same mistake, I still want it done. Maybe need a bit of maturity on that thing. But I ended up making it in C sharp. And the reason I chose C sharp is because I found I was getting, myself into foot guns, doing things the wrong way that I have no way of knowing how to do otherwise. So I don't know everything about C++. I wanted to try a different language for a change. Why not try C sharp? And one of the benefits of that was I could make a window system really, really easily. So I know in engines like Unity, you've got this big window, and you've got the inspector, you've got the scene view, and all the other things, like the scene, the nodes and all that.
Right.
And that was really easy to implement using reflection in C sharp.
Right.
In my map editor. So I ended up doing that, and I did it in DirectX for a change. But why not do new things?
Right.
Learn new ways of doing things. It's really good for you. And then I ended up adding a C sharp IDE to it. It's really bare. It's really just a scintilla, like a window that you can just run code from. But it does the job. And that will automatically scan the code and pick out certain things. So if you make a tool class in the C sharp window, it will automatically detect that and make a button for it in the actual end, a bit like Unity.
Okay.
It automatically generates the user interface.
Nice.
I had fun with that, yeah. And I've tried doing this sort of thing before and I failed, but I did end up making like a C++ voxel shooter.
Okay.
But without being in a team, I find it hard for me to stay consistent with code quality, because sometimes I just want the code to work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, we all know what that's like, just
Oh yeah.
put it together, in the straight flow for the best. Yeah.
It's a recommendation I often give to people who are like in your situation, who are, actively looking for a job, and they're still, we're all still learning. So it's silly to say still learning, but whatever. It's like on your GitHub, open a branch, work on the branch, make a pull request, review your own, you're a team of one, I don't care. Review your own pull request, merge your pull request, right? Like still pretend like you're working on a team so that you have that muscle memory, if you will, for when you actually do get on a team. And I try to maintain that discipline myself, because I haven't worked with other programmers in a long time now.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you say like a Minecraft engine, I want to make sure I'm clear. I understand. I know there are 2 official Minecraft engines. And so, but when you say Minecraft engine, do you mean like a Minecraft style voxel based engine, or do you mean something that actually talks to the Minecraft protocol?
Oh, no, just a voxel engine, voxel game engine.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, well, I was able to implement like really good optimizations into this engine because I started doing a bit of SimD, and that's from working on a compiler. I looked into assembly, and SimD was there, so I thought, okay, well, how do I use this in C sharp? And I was able to improve the speed of the mesh narrator by 16 times by putting an entire row of voxel data into a SIMD register. And because SIMD registers are, on my machine, 16 bytes wide, I was able to process all of it at once. And that, went from about 800 microseconds on debug mode to about 200 really well.
Wow.
On even better.
Does C sharp provide the intrinsics for that, or are you like writing inline assembly in C?
Yes, actually it does. I never knew this, but it does. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you tell it that you want to use a SIMD instruction or a SIMD data type, and it does the right thing.
Yeah, it's not like in C++ where it's like underscore mm underscore
right.
28. It's just like it's like SIMD dot interleave bits signed. Really straightforward.
I think C++ 26 officially merged support for SIMD data types in C++, so you don't have to do the compiler intrinsic nonsense. But
why is it called underscore m underscore? Why not just underscore SIMD? Why underscore m? What does underscore m mean?
Oh, they're doing that to let you know that it's a compiler extension.
Right.
And it's outside of the standard, basically.
Ah.
So you know that you're taking your life in your own hands, basically, at that
I can't
moment.
guarantee it'll work, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not technically supposed to touch any of the stuff that has double underscores in it, unless our compiler vendor tells us that we're allowed to, basically.
I see.
On the topic of SIMD and such, you're working on an optimizing compiler.
I am, yeah. It's nothing like Clang or GCC or anyone worth anything C plus compiler. It's just a fun hobby project. It's really just something new, really, just something different to challenge me. Not the same thing but a different way, but something completely different. And I've had a lot of fun doing that, really. I ended up making a people optimizer for it. After figuring out an intermediate representation and all the rest, and getting a decent parser, and I was fascinated by these seemingly cascading optimizations of assembly code. You change a MOV rax 0 to an XOR rax, and that leads to another optimization where you know where something is 0, so you can eliminate code, and that can end up eliminating an entire jump instruction. That could end up moving the labels around and causing even more effects. It's fantastic. It's like dynamite. Really, I'd call that sort of optimization, people optimization. And the current thing I'm working on that right now, alongside redoing it test-drivenly, is control graphs. There's so many things you can do with liveness analysis that I can't do just pure IR. You need to break it into blocks and process ins and outs and make sure variables are live. Otherwise, like in my compiler, everything goes on the stack of X, and nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. Yes, I'm looking into that really complicated stuff, and I wish there was a different way of doing academia where it's not seemingly gate kept by people who are not in academia. Do you understand what I mean? We got the most obtuse language for the most simple thing, and there should surely be another appendage saying, right, this is what this means in plain English. As much as a technical way of seemingly getting the point.
I think a very long time ago, and I think this has probably been deleted now, so it doesn't really help our listeners, but I believe my cousin did a video on her YouTube channel a really long time ago that was how to read academic papers. But I'm pretty sure it's been deleted now, so I don't even know why I bothered mentioning it. But there are people who are concerned about the same kind of thing. I also know that there are people who will take a link to an academic paper and they'll give it to ChatGPT and ask it to summarize the paper for them.
That's hard because you can't always trust ChatGPT.
No, you can't, but it might give you maybe it'll point you in a new direction. That's how I think of ChatGPT. It points me in a direction that I didn't know I should be looking before.
So you might be using ChatGPT to do some coding. No, this is not going to work. You're not constructing the vector correctly. Right. And rather than going, okay, well, here's the fixed result, goes, you caught me out here. You caught me out. Like he was playing a game. It doesn't quite work. You have to really push and prod it, enter a bit of brain power to figure out what to do. And if you just vibe code, you can't do it because you don't understand the code.
No.
Sadly, so you end up with the most ridiculous laggy game there was. There was a Twitter game I saw. It was 5 FPS and you vibe coded. Well, the advertising was 5 FPS. You shouldn't be doing that. It should be at least 30.
Well, I'm curious about more of the details of your language. So, what do you have right now? Do you have the parser, the lexer, the compiler? Yes. What is the language like? Start me at the top. What does the code look like? And let's go down layer by layer.
Yeah. So it initially began as a C compiler. After wrestling with C's grammar, where it's really ambiguous, I decided, okay, rather than having the type begin either a function or or a variable, so I have a function keyword, obviously. So rather than int main, be function main. Okay, it looks like, okay, well, where do we put the types? And in terms of the easiest place to put it is at the end of the line, right inside. So I know that every new language does this, but it really is really good. So it'd be function main. And like, okay, well, now that my type names are purely for types, how do I describe, if I'm making a variable or well, simple, for or const. So it'd be function main, left parenthesis, for or const, x, int, who knows? And then obviously the int for the end of the function. So just a more simple C. It's definitely not going to be up to C standards. It's definitely not going to be as practical as C.
Yeah.
I'm amazing at, I know, compiler theory. I already know what I'm doing really all the time.
That's the best way to learn.
Well, I enjoy making it, and the programs work. And one of the things I've added to it is a more expressive way of doing things. So, I think C sort of could be made a bit more Pythonic. That's my language is turning out to be like C, but with a bit more of a Python flavor to it.
Okay.
You could you could make if an expression, you can make y an expression, and they can be doable. Rather than having like in C when you want to make a one-line if statement, you have to should be putting curly braces around it, because otherwise, if you delete it, it could cause an error.
Right.
So rather than that, it'd be like if x then y, and else z, and that would be your if expression. And then just doing a single line, so that'd be like if x then y, whatever y it is, could be a function call, a statement probably. Just a bit more concise, a bit more easy to parse really for me.
Okay.
It's basically really simple C. That's how I can put it. I don't know how to describe it really.
Do you have to do explicit returns, or if everything is an expression, is it one of the languages that just implies the last statement is the return value from that expression?
No, there's definitely a return statement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got a parser that works, I assume.
Yeah.
And then are you building like an AST from that?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
And different to how I used to do it, where I'd have this AST node class somewhere, and all my nodes would inherit from me. So I've looked into doing it more compile time, I'd say, and that is by having it all as a variant, And so I would have my top level things like functions and parameters, and the module AST, as a variant. I'd have a statement as a variant. That'll be an if statement, while statement, return statement, all the statements under the sun. And then another variant for expressions. And then make a variant of all them. So that'd be my data. My data would be a variant of top, statements, and expression. The beauty of that is I can put everything into one struct. I don't need to have have these really awkward forward declarations, because then I need there to be a visitor pattern for compiling things. It's really straightforward, I think, and also really good for errors, because if you do not implement the correct visitor, it will not compile. They'll say you've got to implement this visitation bit. So it really helps me out there, really good. And it also separates the logic of what we want to do for the AST from the AST, because then I don't need visitor methods. There's no methods in the AST, it's just purely data.
Right.
Well, what I do have is functions that use the visitor pattern, where you just do std visit, and then you make the struct overload as everyone else does to make sure it works. Yeah, and it's really good.
Nice.
That's a really good improvement I think I've made over having a class everywhere and forward declarations. Yeah.
So to be clear, you are writing this in C++.
I am, yeah.
And so when you say variant, you do actually mean the standard library variant?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah. I was just playing with that. I mean, one of my languages is similar to what you just described. I've also done both roads. I've done the inheritance hierarchy, and I've done the variant of things. And I think I prefer the variant of things. But then every single time I go to do that again, I find myself going, wait a minute, this expression needs to be able to have sub-expressions, and I kind of would like to have it not require, okay, it's going to have sub, and then I'm like, oh, wait, how do I do? Oh, right. No, that's right. I have to have effectively a vector of expressions for the sub-expressions, because you have to, You can't at compile time say an expression contains an expression.
Yeah.
There's no way to do that.
Yeah.
But an expression can contain a pointer to an expression, so that works.
That's the trick. Yeah.
And that frustrates me just a little bit. Like, I really wish that I could somehow just define a recursive data structure in C++, but that's...
Unfortunately, it's impossible. We always think it's possible, you know. It's the same for like, we all wish that 77 plus 33 would equal 100, but it's just not. It doesn't add up. A bit of a funny example there.
Yeah.
I just have a, like, you know, using PTR equals unique pointer of AST, and there's use that everywhere, you know, it works, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you then actually compile it from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have like a multi-phase kind of thing? Like, how do you I've never written an optimizing compiler, just for the record. I've never written a compiler. I've written a few interpreters, never written a compiler.
It's really fun. It's a big, simple one. It doesn't have to be the next, you know, people plus 26. It's just really simple. There, it's barely an assembly. It's really fun to see those knockdown, like Tetris sort of level optimization, where you get the one there, it goes bang there, you know, falls down, bang, just amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. You mean build structure for how I build the project, or how the compiler builds the source code?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever you want to talk about, I guess. I was just kind of thinking, like, how do you like, you are emitting assembly and then you pass that off to like GNU's assembler? No.
Yes. The compiler eventually emits assembly. You know, NASM assembly, because I think NASM's the best one out of them all. You know, we got NASM. They all have these like quirks about them.
Right.
I don't like AT&T syntax.
Most people don't.
No, yeah, just percentage sign, dollar signs, just syntax everywhere that doesn't need to be there. Yeah, man, I like NASM. It's open source. I think it's NASM open source.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah. You know, so if I wanted to, I could even put NASM into my compiler as like a sub module and just write the call the function. Does the thing. You know, really simple.
Okay, so then you are targeting 64-bit, right?
For the compiler.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the compiler isn't specific for 64. Because I can do the backends. Yeah.
So are you relying on someone else's linker, or have you written your own linker as well to actually make an executable out of this thing?
I just use LD.
Okay, I mean, you've just you may as well add a kernel onto it at that point if you've already implemented.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, that'd be quite cool.
So it's an optimizing compiler. I assume you have and you said people optimizations. I assume you have optimization passes. Do you and this is something I've always found fascinating too. How do you decide when you're done optimizing? Do you just literally keep going until nothing changes anymore?
Yes, that's precisely how it works. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was shocked when I found that out. Yeah, it's all you're doing. Just, you know, bool changed. You know, if you detect this silly pattern, you know, you test racks, you know, set al, compare al0, you know, that's all. Then you do that. You know. You remove something, you change something, change equals true, continue back to the sort of loop, does the thing, over and over again. Returns if there was a change, while optimize, do nothing basically. That's what it is,
And you never try to do more than one change per pass. It sounds like you just exit as soon as you have a change and can then start over again, or.
Well, how I would do it is I've got this while loop where I was saying, you know, while optimize. While people underscore pass, really, I do an or with remove redundant labels.
Okay.
So basically, it's just like a mix of the two, juggling, really.
Okay, juggling.
Yeah, just basically juggling. You know, I'm hardly an expert in compiler theory. I just want to, you know, get the most fun out of it, really. Yeah.
I'm certainly not. I've gotten the impression that GCC and Clang don't do the just keep running until you no longer find a change, because that program scale that would just take like if you tried to do that to Chrome, it would take too long, basically. So, but I don't know. I've just gotten the impression that they don't do it that way. But I mean, that's how I would do it. Just keep running. Why not? It's a small thing. Anyhow. All right. So, what kind of programs have you actually written with your compiler now? or can you write?
Really bare bones ones. Because the C API is really simple, especially for Windows. You just put it all into RCX or DX or R8 or R9. The rest of them allocate the registers that way when you want to put the parameters in. I was able to do funny things like put S and put char.
Nice.
I wasn't able to get much further than that because of all the register exhaustions, because I wasn't able to figure out allocation just yet at that time. But once I get to doing semantic analysis and action analysis, I can get to doing that, allocation smartly, deallocation when I don't need it done. When I don't need the variable, when I don't need the register anymore. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what, again, not an expert by far on any of this, but my understanding is that Clang's LLVM's IR basically has an infinite number of registers or something like that, and then they start doing register allocation when they actually lower it to assembly or something.
Yeah, that's why I do it in my one. Yeah, we just have these values. So we have V1 equals load, V2 equals less than X, less than 1, 3, probably equal sequence, but you understand what I mean, it makes new values over time. So I suppose it's kind of like single static assignment, but I haven't got the phi function yet, the function that determines whether it's A or B based on what branch you're talking about. I haven't got that just yet. Sounds interesting, but I'm not yet.
So are you have you basing any of this off of a book? I know there's the compiler book with the dragon on it that everyone loves, whatever. Or are you just 100% just self-taught on this, or what?
Various YouTube videos.
Okay, YouTube videos.
Various YouTube videos, and seeing always running Clang. Seeing as much as I can do it there. Yeah, it's hard. There's a lot to it. These people who write compilers, they have a massive brain. It's ridiculously sized brain. Because it's really hard. It's fun though. It's really, really challenging.
And just for the record, I'd like to state, also for you, but also for the rest of the listeners, everything that you've just said about your process of building a compiler would totally make a fun conference presentation. You could absolutely do a conference presentation on that, just for the record. And it's a great way of getting your name out there when you're looking for jobs.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully when it gets a bit more, functional and usable and doesn't just put everything under the stack after about 10 registers or 10 variables or so, that'd be good.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. How much code is presented at conferences that would fall down if it was given? Come on. Do you have a... Well, I guess another question that I've always had is how do you know that your optimizations are correct?
Good question.
Do you have a test?
I've recently run into because I ended up. Sorry, it's a little bit of a tangent, but I'll get back to it immediately.
Sure.
Is that my semantic analyzer? Is it that the code that converts the IO to basic blocks? It ended up almost working in that it told me how many. I linked them all together, and unfortunately, the pointers were invalid. So what the basic block may not have. Well, sorry, according to the compiler, the basic block may have a million billion different inputs and a million different outputs because the pointers are wrong.
Okay.
I need to write as a test for that. So I'm halfway redoing that in a different branch right now. But I've still got the code. That's why it's a really good thing because got the old code. Now, when I get around to redoing the optimizer, I will definitely be using tests. Testing certain machine code, making sure that that's definitely going to compile down correctly and sort of causing side effects. Really, the way I did it was just eyeballing it, I suppose. Just looking at the assembly, reading the assembly, and understanding it, and just saying, okay, well, we don't need to do this. We can just replace it with that. Really, really simple things like that. It would not pass production grade or Clang or GCC sort of levels and this, but it does the job.
Right.
Yeah.
You do have some sort of a test suite, though. It sounds like
working on it. Yeah. Yeah.
I do find working on parsers, having a test suite is very valuable because it's so easy to accidentally break part of the parse if you're not careful.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting pretty close to the hour here, anyhow. You also have mentioned that you're working on a voxel-based game engine that you can like customize for people, and how's that going?
I haven't touched it in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And that's because I think C# makes it very easy to do the wrong things. Like you can, yeah, it's easy.
Okay.
It makes it too easy to do the wrong things. Like I'll be coding in Visual Studio, like, okay, make this into a class. Yeah, why not? Make it into a class. Make it into a record. Yeah, make it into a record. Why not Visual Studio?
Oh, you're just taking its exception. It's it's recommendations. You're saying it'll
Yeah,
recommend you do these things. Okay.
because I'm assuming Microsoft knows how to code better C# than me, and it just ends up making a mess. It's not the end of the world. You can do it all to fix it, but it works. Yeah.
That's kind of funny. Have you had any customers by any chance? I'm just curious.
Oh no, certainly not. I mean, I've sent it to a few friends on Discord, and they found it by for writing all scripts, but certainly not yet. Yeah.
I just
What?
immediately. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say. I'm working with a few friends on a Minecraft server the past week or so. Half compiler, half the server. So I've been writing server code in C++, working in a team.
Okay.
This one guy is very pedantic. I love the guy, really, really smart guy. And he's very pedantic. He wants to make sure that the code's absolutely correct, using no discards, don't even don't put const in the header file. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I'm sure you do know. Don't put const in the parameter list in the header file. It makes a difference. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew that, but I also disagree with the people who say to not do that personally.
Yes,
But whatever.
Well, yeah, so I'm hoping that once we get the up and running, got more of an understanding of net programming, UDP, how Minecraft does it, because obviously we're copying their protocol. So if I can figure that out with my team, I can work on this other program, this Voxel game, which I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
Really well, yeah.
Okay, so this is where my confusion earlier when I asked you about Minecraft game. I was thinking of the Minecraft server that you had mentioned to me.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
So now in this case, are you actually copying the Minecraft protocol, or are you just again making a Minecraft style thing?
Well, we're making a Minecraft Bedrock server, so we are making sure we're getting as close to the Bedrock protocol as we possibly can.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a great experience.
It is, yeah. You get to work in a team. You get to understand team dynamics. You look out to make sure you're writing the best code. It's just all very fun. Yeah.
Is this also open source GitHub collaboration kind of thing? Okay.
Yeah.
You definitely need to make sure you send me links to all these projects so that
Absolutely.
I can share them in the show notes. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about before we wrap up?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jamie. It was great having you on, and I hope you have some luck looking for a job. And like I said, be sure to check out those conferences that are out there.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to be here.